So this is take number 2 of our very first YouTube video. This is Heidi, 1/3 of Green Girls Living, Micah behind the camera, and Zoe, who isn't with us today. We are Green Girls Living. This is one of our kitchens. Today we're going to make, for our very first video, bear with us, it might get a bit rocky, we're just learning, is Powerhouse buns, which we find that we just can't live without because it keeps us away from bread, which for us is a slippery slope, but we still crave bread-like products. So this is made with all whole grains, it's all organic, and let's get started. You make it in your food processor. The first thing you're going to add is 1.5 cups of whole oats. And we always use gluten-free and organic oats. So just put that 1.5 cups right in your food processor. I'm not sure the size of this. It's probably at least a 6 cup, but it's a KitchenAid. So that's number 1. Then the rest of the ingredients I'm going to put into a cup here, or most of them. And we're going to start with a quarter of a cup of chia seeds, a quarter of a cup of psyllium husk, oh yes, we have in here 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds, and I just grind them in my old coffee grinder here. It's what I use for my herbs and seeds and such. A teaspoon of turmeric, and again we try to keep everything organic. A pinch of pepper, which supposedly activates the turmeric. You don't need much at all. Now to flavor it, I do a heaping teaspoon of onion powder, a heaping teaspoon of garlic powder, this is baking soda, and again a rounded, not heaping this time, but rounded, a baking soda, and a rounded teaspoon of baking powder. Now I have some very finely chopped parsley here, and I'm going to add a quarter of a cup of this finely ground parsley. And matcha. This is optional. We just like to add it because it is one of those superfoods. If you don't add it, and I'm adding a level tablespoon of matcha. If you don't add it, you might add a little bit less of the water when it comes to that part of the recipe. But honestly, I don't think it makes a difference. This recipe is pretty forgiving. Okay, I think I have managed to remember to put everything in here. So I'm going to give this a quick stir here, just with the back of my measuring spoon. And then I'm going to just add it right into my food processor and give this a quick whiz to incorporate it on pulse. The next thing I'm going to add is cooked quinoa. This is a 1/2 cup of quinoa cooked in 1 cup of water. And I've usually cooked this the day before. I don't think it would matter even if you did it just before. Even if it was warm, I wouldn't put it in really, really hot, but just dump that right on top. Again, give it a quick whiz. Now we're going to add our wet. And our wet ingredients, boy, that looks fuller than usual. But you can see that's, you need a good size food processor. I think they're pretty standard. This is 2 cups of water and 1/4 cup of applesauce mixed together. It's just easier if the applesauce is put right into the water. There we go. Now I'm going to put this on low, and overall I do it for about 2 minutes. I do it until it turns into a really sticky dough. In fact, it's so heavy it even stops my processor. Eek! But it hasn't seemed to harm it any. So I'm going to do this, and I think that will stop the camera while this is running. But it will turn into a very sticky dough. And here's a tip for you. This dough is so sticky, you're going to want to pull that blade right away and bring it right over here to a sink full of soapy water. You will thank me later for that. Okay, here we go. We'll see you when this is blended. Okay, the food processor stopped. The dough got so sticky it actually stopped all on its own. You don't have to do that, but you're going to be processing it for at least 2 minutes, because let me show you how sticky this batter is. Oh, I'm going to save the top. Look at that. Now, don't do this at home. Do this with a spatula. But I just take off as much of the dough as I can. Don't want to waste any of this. And take this blade right over to the sink. Just pop it in that hot soapy water. Now, normally I let this sit for at least 15 minutes, just like that, because the chia seeds and flax seeds have a chance to expand and will help with the rise on these buns. So today maybe we won't leave it for 15 minutes just for the sake of this video. So what I do then is just take this off the machine, put this aside, and I'm going to get some filtered water. I'll be right back. And put it in a measuring cup. This is for my hands because of the stickiness of this dough. I have lined 2 baking sheets with parchment paper. You can use Silpat if you happen to have this, but this works just fine. Now I have preheated the oven to 375, and as you can see, this is a very old oven. You may find with your oven that 350 works fine. You're going to have to experiment a bit because every oven is different. So here we go. Wet your hands. And just take the dough right out. This dough is a little looser. Now this is interesting. Without letting it sit, it would be thicker if we had let it sit. I'm noticing that this is much looser. But that's okay. You really can't go wrong with these buns. And you just roughly shape them. I don't measure it or anything like that. And I tend to get 16 buns out of this. Now they're not big buns. And one of the tricks with making this recipe is to keep the buns small. This is taken from Jill Dalton's recipe on the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show. She makes a bread, and I've modified that recipe to come up with this because I found that the bread was very thick and dense inside, and I don't like that. I like something more bread-like, lighter in texture, not too heavy. So I thought making buns might help solve that problem, and although these buns are still very moist, they are lighter, definitely lighter. Boy, this is a lot of batter. Okay, so after, I just go back and add more with whatever's left to try and even it out.
They look so green.
That's from the parsley.
They're so brown after.
They are brown after. They look green. That's from the parsley. So I just try to make sure I use all of this great batter. And again, these may not rise as much as the ones that I leave. So just take this and your sticky fingers right over to the sink and clean your hands. Get it all off your hands because you're going to now shape the buns. So here we go. That's why I have this water here, because you're going to use a lot of water to shape the buns. And I just go like this, roughly, and shape them into kind of a dome shape like that. Maybe what we'll do is let these sit before we put them in the oven after I've done this. So you cook them for a half an hour. You know, I've got two racks in the oven here. So for half an hour I cook them, then I bring them out, switch the trays, and cook them another 25 minutes after that first half an hour. So while I finish shaping these buns, and you can see how easy this is, it's pretty fast. Don't be afraid to use water. It won't hurt, and it keeps your hands moving along fairly quickly. So we'll take a break right now, and once these are done, and I've let them sit for 15 minutes now rather than in the food processor, we'll stick them in the oven, and we'll come back after the first half hour of cooking when we switch the trays, so you can see what they look like halfway through the baking process. Okay, the timer's about to go off. I think you're gonna just perfect timing. Here we go. Finished buns. You don't have to be quite as careful now. They're a little firmer. And you notice, look at the different sizes. It really doesn't make any difference. Look at this little tiny one here. So I just hold down the tray with my pot holder, and they come so easily off. And you can even handle them like this right away if you do it quickly.
And you have a special tray there, right?
I have a baking rack so that it allows airflow all around the buns. And you do want to allow these to cool before you cut into them or store them. And as we mentioned, they store beautifully in the fridge, and they even freeze well. By the way, of course, these are completely plant-based, in case you hadn't noticed what we're about. So there we go. I have over here ones that have been in the fridge for 3 days, to keep for quite a few days. Just to show you, and this bun has been around for a while, but look how wonderfully textured they are.
It's pretty dark.
Can you see? Can you see that? I don't know why you can't see that. Anyway, this is walnut cashew spread.
Like this.
Oh, okay. Sorry, here we are practicing our first video upset here. But yeah, this is just a walnut cashew spread that I made the other day, just to show you how wonderful it is with the spread. But they're great if, you know, with a soup. They're wonderful toasted. So give these a try and let us know what you think of them. And hey, you could be our very first subscriber. Hit the subscribe button and make sure to check out our website. There's a lot more than recipes on the website. greengirlsliving.com. See ya.